The views and opinions expressed in this podcast by the host and or the guest do not necessarily reflect the views of the host and or Paranormal Buzz Radio and or its sponsors. Use of any material produced by Paranormal Buzz Radio without express written consent is prohibited. Paranormal Buzz Radio will not be held responsible for you holding your knees, crying, and rocking in a corner in a puddle of your own urine, or being beheaded by a group of children in a cornfield. In fact, if you come across a group of children in a cornfield, we promise to make fun of you as you run away screaming in terror. Listener discretion is advised.
Ghost stories,
folklore,
psychics and mediums,
shamanism,
paranormal investigations,
haunted locations, and all that other weird shit.
You're listening to the Traveler's Moon Podcast
with the paranomad Chris Nielsen
and Kelly McCarville, Moonspinner.
Here are your hosts, Chris and Kelly.
Hello, and it's actually Chris and Kelly. This is so exciting. So the last
time,
some
weird shows lately.
Oh yeah, definitely. So the last time we actually did a formal version of the Traveler's Moon podcast, I was flying solo, and then we did a Whiskey Wednesday, which wasn't technically podcasty. So welcome back, Kelly McCarville.
Although we need to get that one uploaded still.
We do still need to get that one uploaded.
Yeah, but yeah, but I was sick.
Oh yeah, you were like dying.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I did not feel good. You guys did not want me on the show. Well, that seems like forever and an age ago.
That's because it was. So much has happened since then.
We got a lot happen.
Oh, yeah. I think like a recap episode might be necessary in the future.
Oh, yeah. But not this time. Because we have a guest this time, and we so ran out of time last time we had him on the show. We have a lot more to talk about.
Yeah. For the second time ever on the Traveler's Moon podcast, he's our first repeat offender.
Is that true?
He's our first repeat offender. That is an absolute fact.
Look at you go.
Welcome back.
You need a t-shirt.
Nash Hoover. How's it going, man?
Hello, guys. It's good to be back. I am good.
Awesome. So, yeah. So, for anybody who missed the last podcast, can you just give us a quick, Reader's Digest about, who is Nash Hoover? What does Nash Hoover do?
What makes you tick?
Well, I am the co-host, co-creator, executive producer of Chasing Legends, which is a web series on YouTube. And my cousin and I and our team, we travel all over the place and investigate cryptid legends and see if there's any truth to them.
Awesome. He's and not only our first repeat offender, he was also our first cryptozoologist.
He was, yes.
On the podcast.
Which was it probably shouldn't be as much fun for the host as it was for me, but I just had such a good time on that show because, like I said in that show, there wasn't a ton that I knew. I knew just a little bit about stuff. So, I mean, I was probably as fascinated as anybody who was listening. It was fun.
Yeah, that was a fun one.
This time, though, not only are we going to talk about just everything, but we want to focus a little bit in this show about a festival that you have coming up, and specifically the monster that this festival is kind of featured in.
Yes.
So that's
actually, that was one of my kind of random questions I had thought of. So I re-listened to the last podcast, and I actually did homework for this. So I think it's the first guest I've ever actually done homework for, which is strange. So the last podcast, it's actually about Iowa's cryptid. But before we get into that, the question I had was, is monster is that like an okay term? Because I know, so in our field, ghost hunter is one of those words that is it's used and it's recognized. But a lot of the paranormal investigators I know, they definitely prefer that phrase.
Yeah.
So is monster one of those? Is monster an accepted phrase in the cryptozoology field, or is that kind of one of those overused
taboo
words?
Titles.
I would say a little bit of both. I mean, with the case of the Van Meter visitor is kind of what it's frequently called. I have seen it dubbed the Van Meter monster, but more, I guess, mainstream, it's the Van Meter visitor, at least with those that are kind of up on the lore of it. I know I think it's actually happening right now. There's the Expedition X on Discovery Channel. It's not a plug. they're doing an episode on the Van Meter creature, and they're calling it the Van Meter monster, which, got to make it sound scary.
I was going to say, it's got to sound sexy.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I've always called it the Visitor. I know Chad Lewis has always referred to it as the Visitor. I know his book on the case is the Visitor, and the festival is actually called the Van Meter Visitor Festival. So, but in certain cases, monster is okay. Like I believe we talked about the Mogollon Monster in Arizona, which is like Arizona's Bigfoot. So that's, kind of dubbed as the Mogollon Monster. It's the monster that was seen on the Mogollon Rim. So some cases the name sticks to obviously the geographic names of certain things, but I mean, I'm not against calling myself a monster hunter, but
It makes you sound kind of badass.
It really does.
So yeah, I guess, I mean, depending on context, it's monsters. Absolutely okay.
Well, awesome. So before we kind of get into the Van Meter Visitor Festival and all that other stuff, what's 2021 had in store for you? Been up to anything new?
Not as much as I would have liked. I mean, I bought a house. I'm having a kid.
Congratulations.
So personally, there's been a lot going on.
Didn't we see another fairly big thing that just happened to you recently too?
Oh yeah, and I got engaged. I can't forget about that one. I'm sure.
Congratulations.
I'm saving your butt here, just so
The
you
wife
know.
to be is listening. Yeah, that was something we always had talked about for a long time, and so it was just kind of nice to finally, officiate it. So now we have that to plan.
See, never a boring moment. Never a boring moment.
But yeah, I mean, I've done a little bit of traveling. I went to Puerto Rico in April just as a vacation because I do take those, I guess. And so it was nice to go somewhere and not have to work.
But when you take those vacations like that, do you find like?
Oh, it's impossible for me not to. I mean, you got the chupacabra in Puerto Rico, so it was every hike to the jungle. I was looking for something.
Yeah, because we just took our vacation, and I put that in quotes, and we went to Gettysburg, Trans-Allegheny, Ohio State Reformatory.
To be fair, that was more or less a work trip. We were up, kind of jumping Paracon to
Our vacation
Paracon.
too, but yeah. Yeah. I think when you do stuff like this, it's almost impossible to go someplace and not be thinking about what's in the area and what is there to check out. Yeah, at least for us, I know.
Oh yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, I honestly know about the Van Meter creature, the Van Meter visitor, whatever you want to call it. And the only thing I really know about it is that it gets compared to the Mothman. So I'm super excited to hear about it.
And actually, we established last podcast, if it was close to like any particular cryptid out there, it's a roping. Am I saying that right?
Yes, in terms of the fact that it emits a light.
Similarities, yeah.
The roping, the light is more emitted from its chest torso area, whereas the Van Meter visitor was coming from its head.
Which I'm really glad people can't see the live podcast because I'm trying to like actually imitate a horn
in
real time. But
yeah,
well, you guys are actually frozen on my end. I hope that's not.
Oh,
well, hopefully we are frozen for everybody.
yeah.
So if anyone's listening and it's frozen on their end, let us know so we can.
So Nash isn't just here talking to himself,
right?
All right. So
I hear you okay. And everything looks like it's running fine, but I
was going to say from our side, it looks like it's all running smooth.
And
so
usually
hopefully.
chat's yelling at us, so
Okay.
I'm wondering.
could just be on my
I'm
hand.
wondering if it's not the video lagging.
Yeah, it might have been.
Okay, Shay says audio's good. Audio's good.
All right.
Thanks, Shay.
Well, good. All right. So Van Meter Festival, that is coming up the last weekend in September, correct?
The 25th.
Okay. And tell us kind of what is the
What are we celebrating?
Am I just railing you?
No, you're good. I was just about to say, what are we celebrating at the Van Meter Visitor Festival?
So the festival kind of just celebrates the history of the initial encounter, the Week of Terror, as they kind of call it, in 1903, when the creature was first seen, and the townspeople eventually kind of rose up against it and forced it back into the mine where it came from. And, eventually it did fly off, they say east, which kind of just coincides with the Mothman coinciding. But so it's Chad Lewis does a walking tour, takes you through downtown Van Meter, and kind of takes you to the key sites of the key locations of where specific events happened in that week of creature sightings. All the buildings are still there and original, so that's really cool. And then the walking tour takes you out of town and takes you to where the mine shaft would have been before it was filled in. And it's just really cool. They're really great people. It's obviously it's a super small town, so you got that nice small town vibe, and everyone's just super friendly and welcoming. And a lot of great people. They're going to be there this year. A lot of great people are there every year. It's just an awesome festival. It's this is my 8th year going. I've been to all of them except for the first one, and then obviously last year didn't happen.
Right.
But I think it's the same lineup of speakers that would have been there last year. I think, give or take one or two. I'm speaking. There's guys like Ken Gerhard, David Weatherly, David Chochin, Seal Edgar, Steve Ward. I think Kevin Nielsen's doing a presentation, and then I'm probably missing one or two. And then Chad Lewis I think he does 3 walking tours. There's like 2 during the day, and then there's like the big one, the main one at night.
Right.
And I think it's from noon to 8 or 9 in there. It's pretty much the whole day.
Now, you said that it was kind of based off of the 1903 initial sighting of the Van Meter creature. Does that mean that it was seen more than once?
I think it was the whole kind of event took place over about a week.
Yeah, and I was actually just about to say, it looks like we've got some people in chat who actually aren't familiar with the Van Meter visitor. So are you able to give us like kind of like if you're able to, like a step-by-step of like the entire event, if not like the Reader's Digest version, just for people who might not know about the Van Meter visitor?
Yeah, hold on. Let me grab the book so I can kind of give it more detail.
We got a book.
Things on it.
You mean to tell me this isn't committed to memory?
Can you imagine? I mean, we can't remember all the details of the places that we've gone to and all the spirits that are at different locations. We get them start crossing over. So trying to remember all the details, and especially for something like this, if he made one thing out of line, somebody would be all over him about that's not what happened, So I get it. My brain sucks. I can't remember anything. So.
All right. I don't remember. Can people see me?
No.
Okay. All right. So this is the Van Meter Visitor book by Chad Lewis, Noah Voss, and Kevin Nielsen. So it was for several nights in 1903. The small town of Van Meter, Iowa, was terrorized by a giant bat-like creature that emerged from an old abandoned mine. The nature and origin of this mysterious visitor was never discovered. Over 100 years later, 3 researchers sought out to Van Meter to shine a light on the amazing, bizarre case. It's just the kind of the back of the book. It's a really very detailed book. They kind of go into all of the key people, all the key eyewitnesses in 1903. Dive into the kind of explanations of what it could be. Was it hoaxed? Was it a mass hysteria event? Was it extraterrestrial? Or something even, crazier than extraterrestrial. It's kind of bat-like pterodactyl. I know the kind of the mascot that we've kind of used at the festival and the kind of logo for the festival has been something very pterodactyl-like, obviously with some sort of light beacon that admits in their head that all of the eyewitnesses that claim to have come face to face with the visitor during the 1903 encounters, said that as soon as the light hit them, they pretty much blacked out and had no recollection of basically lost time. So that kind of falls in with like the extraterrestrial ishness of it. It was said to kind of give off a very strange smell that kind of went along with the light and the memory loss and such. So it was a very, very strange thing, especially for a small town of such as Van Meter to kind of have something like this happen.
Definitely. And I think one of the cool things about the Van Meter visitor story is the fact that, like, so Mama Pat and Chad was wondering if it had any sort of interactions with locals or if it was more just a sighting. And it was spotted by a lot of people, and a lot of people who made the claims were like prominent members of the community.
Oh yeah, I mean there was several people attempted to shoot at this thing. I mean there was, I think it was the bank owner. I think it was the bank owner, I believe, shot out like the window of. He was like inside. He like ran inside because he saw this thing, and it like landed outside the window of his bank or store, and he actually shot out the window of his storefront to try and kill this thing. I mean, so that, I mean,
it's the American way. We got to do that.
Shoot it.
Got a big old creature just came outside my fucking bank window. I thought I was gonna take my damn shotgun, but I'm shooting him. Anything, you know what I'm saying?
So it's kind of one of those things. Yeah. So it was the bank. Clarence Dunn was the guy shot out the bank window. So I mean, you kind of read it, you kind of look at it, and then you think, okay, this all kind of sounds crazy. But then you actually like look into like the people individually, and you're like, okay, these guys were like damaging their own property. Like there's something, they saw something that they couldn't explain.
So the memory loss part of it is fascinating to me because, I mean, I could get something that we're not used to seeing and something that smells funny and all of that, but there isn't really animals out there that make you lose your memory, lose your time.
But if you think about it, like if there's something your brain can't explain, it's like people
just kind of like overloads.
It just kind of overloads, and you basically have these little lapses in memory as your brain's like just kind of coping mechanism for, what might have happened.
But every
I mean, sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to say, but more than one. I can see that being like one person maybe having that experience, but you would think it wouldn't be multiple people stating that they can't remember what happened. Yeah,
I think there was 5 key people that had like very prominent sightings, and then eventually when the townspeople like kind of tracked it back to this mine, some of the reports say that there was a baby version of this creature that was also seen with like the larger main creature.
Yeah, I guess it was like on that 7th day or something. It was like right around morning, like the creature flew out of the mine shaft, and then it was like followed by like a smaller version of itself.
And that was the last time it was seen, was when it came barreling out of the mine shaft. And there's even theories that it's like demonic, obviously, because the mine shaft, you're under the ground. It's, came from hell kind of a thing.
It's 1903.
You're always, I mean, I don't really know. Yeah, there's not really anything in or around Iowa that you could like mistake for this. I mean, obviously you have large birds such like the cranes and the eagles and such, but like you should know what that looks like versus something else, and those aren't really usually going to like come at you or
even a huge
emit lights that wipe your memory.
Well, yeah,
exactly.
A huge eagle isn't going to sit more than a few feet tall.
Oh yeah,
and that would be a damn big bird. So,
I mean, I know in like with some cases, such as like other like similar cases around the world, like say is like such as like the Awul in Indonesia, there are like massive bats that live there. I mean, they have the flying fox in in Indonesia and that part of the world that are just like
sized, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like 5 foot wingspan. Like that
5 or 6 foot wingspan.
absolutely could be a contender for what people are seeing, and they're just exaggerating the size of an already large bat. But here the normal bats you're going to see are not that big. They're not they're
I would move.
they're what they're basically like rat size, like a very large rat size with wings. That's you're not mistaking something that's maybe a foot across as this giant creature.
So if you think about it in the aspect, so this is the first I think I've ever heard about the whole, like a baby came out after.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I had never heard that aspect before. So then my mind goes to, like, are there other cryptids that have the story that they migrate to reproduce? Or are there any large animals that they travel to certain areas to reproduce, and that's the only time that they're there? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I mean, there's always stories with like Bigfoot sightings that there's always like family groups seen. I know with like the Patterson Gimlin film, there's always like been a speculation that it looks like she's carrying a baby. But I mean, who really knows? I mean, if these things are legitimate animals, then yes, absolutely, they're breeding, and and that's always the challenging question that comes at cryptid cases, is that there would have to be a breeding colony, in which obviously yes, if it is, at least in terms of like the lake and river and like aquatic creatures, like Loch Ness, Champ, such those, there would have to be enough of them to sustain sightings for hundreds of years that you get with a lot of these cases, and not just one solitary creature, which often is kind of believed. So yeah, it's definitely a strange one. Like you kind of think what was it some sort of a large bird species that didn't belong there that just kind of ended up there, but at the same time it's like it still doesn't make sense, because why was it potentially attacking the townspeople?
And why was it shooting light out of its chest?
Yeah, exactly.
And
it's like every time you try to like reach a possible conclusion on it, there's like you can maybe answer one aspect of it, but then you can't even get close to answering the other factors that kind of go into this creature.
And I was thinking, when we were saying like there has to be families of these cryptids, why hasn't anybody ever seen a baby Sasquatch? Although that would be adorable, by the way, a baby Bigfoot. But
people claim to.
Yeah, people claim to like smaller, like adolescent. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was going to say, maybe they are, and they're just mistaking it for like a bear, because until it gets to be,
and if you think about it, most
ginormous, they don't realize it's out of the norm.
That's the thing. Most primates will keep their young very close for like more of an extended amount of time than you would see like for some reason my brain went right to like the sea turtle, where like that egg's hatch and it's like, hey, good luck because mama's not there.
Yeah, exactly.
You just spend your first 100 feet trying to get to the ocean.
Yeah, watch out for the seagulls.
Favor, right? Yeah, but then you would think that they would see baby Van Meter creatures flying around, but again,
well, they did.
If baby Van Meter, but you'd see them more often than just that one time in 1903.
Well, they're few and far between, but there are in the area people that do still claim large winged creatures.
Oh, really?
Like in the Van Meter area?
Yeah, and around, which is kind of what prompted like the Expedition X episode, is that they're kind of trying to solve the original case, but then looking into like the current sightings, which, like I said, are pretty far and in between. Like it's not like it's maybe one every few years, if that, and a good majority of them are just mistaken identity or
sure.
Just kind of seeing something you couldn't explain to me, and like, well, Van Meter's not far away type of thing. And I mean, there's definitely still, like I said, people claiming to see things, but I don't think it's anything that would be the same or whatever was seen in 1903.
So I should probably know this, but where is Van Meter?
It's by Des Moines.
Yeah, it's 20 minutes west or straight west of Des Moines,
Like
just off of I-90.
Yeah, and actually, if you take
it's an
80.
No, it's 80.
Yeah, there's like exits for Van Meters, just a couple miles off the highway.
Yeah, it's like 15, 20 minutes. It's not far at all.
Why have we never ventured off of 80?
I've suggested it a couple times, but it always feels like
I've done it a couple times, and you just come across some pretty cool, interesting stuff.
Yeah, because we head that way all the time if we're heading out to Melbourne or.
Oh, we're heading out there that direction next week.
Oh yeah.
What a coincidence!
I'm like, what are we doing next week? I forgot.
Food for thought.
Yeah, because like I actually stay in Des Moines when I go down to the festival because it's just a quick drive.
And probably more options.
Yeah. Well, there's like one motel, like nearby in the town of, I think it's the town of DeSoto, and it's not great.
It's one of those like
from what I've heard.
It's like when you go out to Malvern, there's just not really any place to stay. So
It makes me think of that movie. I think it was Vacancy. It came out.
Oh yeah.
In like early 2000s. Like I don't trust seedy looking motels in the middle of nowhere for that reason. Like that movie specifically ruined me.
Yeah, I had a bad Motel 6 experience in 2020, and I'm pretty much done with kind of less than 3-star hotels.
If it has a number in the name, as a general rule, you want to avoid.
Yeah.
I'm just happy when they don't ask me if I want the room for the whole night versus a couple hours. So, which has happened. Yes, that has. So, so for the Van Meter creature, I know there's the Mothman that it's compared to quite often. But are there stories of other cryptids in other locations that sound similar to the Van Meter creature?
I mean, in terms of like characteristics, like I said, the only one that I can really think of that's like close would be like Ropen in Papua New Guinea, but that's also in Papua New Guinea.
Kind of by Australia.
Obviously, the Yahul in Indonesia. I mean, you got like the Native American Thunderbird stories, which are pretty much all over the United States and into Alaska and such, and of, large winged birds or, a large winged animal. And there's always like the famous tombstone pterodactyl photo that always pops up every now and then that people for the longest time believed was real, but it is in fact a hoax, of like all the cowboys like holding this giant pterodactyl that they shot.
I was gonna say I've never heard.
I was gonna say, is that the one that almost like I know in some they claim it's like a Thunderbird or something like that, or is that?
If you like Google search Thunderbird, it's gonna be like one of like the first images to come up is like this Tombstone, Arizona Thunderbird sighting. Yeah.
Well, now I want to go Google it and look it up because I have.
It's a cool picture, but it's like you kind of look at it and you're like, yeah, right. Like it's totally like there's no way. And
it's
it's good for what it is, but it's definitely not legit.
Okay, so I have a weird question for maybe it's not weird. You probably get asked this all the time, but so you research all sorts of different cryptids, and you have so many different stories and explorations that you've done. Do you have a favorite?
Jeez.
Tasmanian tiger, wasn't it?
Did we ask this?
We did.
That's the one I want to do.
Oh, that's what he wants to do.
I mean, in terms of investigations, I'd say the probably the most exciting one we were on was Mogollon Monster, just because there was like so much happening. Probably the craziest expedition we've done was Louisiana.
Was that the one with the boardwalk?
Yeah, and the alligators.
But that's because of real alligators.
Yeah,
I remember that story.
That was because I was like, hey, look at that, eye shine, and then they were like, freaking out at us. So,
but not just that investigation wise. What would you say your favorite creature or legend or do you know what I'm trying to say? like everybody always asks us what's our favorite haunted location, or who's when we're at a Mason house when there's a bunch of spirits there, who's your favorite spirit? Who's your favorite kid, Nash?
I would say as of right now, my favorite investigation we've done was Moki and Monster.
And remind me what that one is. I know we talked about it.
That's Arizona's Bigfoot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I knew we had talked about it. I couldn't remember for sure.
That for me was just, and that's one that I would love to in some shape or form, whether it's to shoot an episode or just to go back out there. I would love to go back and just hike around and like spend more time out there than we got to, because it has so much potential for something to exist undetected.
So for all the stories that are out there, because some of them sound like, hey, yeah, that's a possibility. And other of them sound just so completely, that's just not even possible that that's real. Do you feel like most of the stories that you hear or that you encounter are true or made up or have some basis of truth, but maybe have been embellished?
For me, I always say this, it's like I want so badly for all of these to be legitimate, but I know that it's not possible or will ever happen. A lot of these, they always say, legend and myth has some root in reality. Our ancestors saw something they couldn't explain, so they, just created these incredible stories around what they were seeing. And I think I talked about this last time. For me, researching like the international cases is like, that's kind of like my thing, is I really love researching the cases abroad versus within the US, because the cultural history associated with all of them is so deep and rich, and you can really just trace it back to like that initial, like, what the hell is this? Let's worship it type thing. And, and that's oftentimes what you get, like, so many cultures around the world that have these cryptid legends a part of their cultures. It's really a part of their culture. It's like it's embedded in every fiber of their existence. And, and it's to the point where a lot of them, if they have new sightings of whatever, they're just like, oh yeah, they're there. And it just doesn't even like phase them anymore, where it's like, if, with us, when we see this stuff, it's like, holy crap, like, what is that? And, the Yeti is a huge one with that, where it's literally worshipped as a god. Like it's like, you do not mess with the Yeti, in the Himalayas. And, I see, I've seen a lot of, people that have gone there looking for this, and they'll ask the locals, like, what, have you seen it? And they're like, yeah, I've seen it. And they're like,
it's nothing.
Will you elaborate on your sighting? They're like, well, I saw it. I knew what it was. I saw it. And oftentimes there's just, they're like, it's a part of our culture. It's a part of our religion. Like we know they're there. We know we don't mess with them. And to us, there's no point in trying to prove whether or not they exist. And to me, it's so exciting. It's just, I enjoy that part of it, because there's just so many avenues you can go, where it's like, okay, was this just a real flesh and blood animal that they didn't understand? So they exaggerated every part of it, and it just stuck, and it just became oral tradition, whether they know now that that's not what it is. But it's just stuck because it's been a part of their culture for so long. And it just, I just went on a huge tangent.
Okay. Oh, no, you're good. That's what the podcast format is for.
But, okay, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
My brain's going crazy.
No, you're fine.
So, but there, like you said, there has to be a little bit of truth in everything. It's fascinating to me, the different stories, the different similarities of the beasts that you'll see, or whatever word beast may not be.
And actually, we were on the same wavelength there. Because I was thinking, like, you get multiple claims of something that sounds like a Bigfoot cross-culturally.
And
Historically, you hear a dragon in like every culture.
Or even like the Van Meter creature, in Indonesia and wherever else he said they were.
Like Papua New Guinea.
Yeah.
Here in Iowa, Tombstone, allegedly. We actually just looked up the picture. It looks fake as shit. I had another one. Fairy folk, like small... And I guess, okay, so that's a weird question. Do those fit under the cryptid category? When you hear, you get to like Northern Europe and like Eastern Europe, there's always these examples of smaller invisible people, the fairies, the Fae, and that's like Ireland and Europe. And I can't remember, but it occurs cross-culturally. Does that fall under the cryptid category here in the States, or is that like something that cryptozoologists over in Europe study, or is it like a different realm entirely?
Depends on who you ask. I would say yes, just because I've been to Ireland looking into this stuff as a cryptozoologist. So yeah, I mean, it definitely does. I mean, it's stuff people claim to see that isn't explained by science. The fairy folk type stuff, I think, is kind of one of those rare ones that kind of shakes hands with what you guys do and what I do, because they're you can kind of investigate it from both sides.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, absolutely, those are just and that's also kind of falls into what I was talking about a minute ago with like the international stories and cryptid stuff, is that it's just a lot of it is just so rooted in culture.
Oh yeah, definitely. And you get to some of those like less explored areas, and I guess this almost kind of leads to a question. So you go to places like the Amazon, where they're discovering still hundreds, if not thousands, of species per day. And granted, most of it are insects, but the fact that like they're still finding stuff out there, I'm assuming that's got to make you just very optimistic, like being in the field that you're in. Absolutely.
I mean, and I always get that question, like, well, why do you do something like this? Why do you believe that there's these unidentified creatures out there? And it just kind of goes into the whole idea that there's nothing left to find is just such a naive concept that, literally, like, they're discovering new animal species every day all over the world, and we know more about the surface of Mars than we do the depths of our own ocean. And there's still, tons of jungle areas around the world that are completely unexplored. Papua New Guinea is one of them. Parts of the Amazon or other. Like there's so many places for things like this to hide that have never been touched by man. And obviously they're in some very dangerous areas on their own, but people are going into these areas knowing what's there and then seeing something that they've never seen before that fits a certain description, then it lends some credibility to some of these encounters and sightings of things.
Isn't Papua New Guinea where that tribe is that's had like little to no human interaction? Do you guys know what I'm talking about?
I think there is one there, but I think the one that is the most known one is the one that's on that island in the Indian Ocean.
Yeah, Indian Ocean.
That they literally kill anybody that comes ashore.
Yeah.
They had like a poor experience in like the early 1900s with like white people trying to, what we did back then, like spread the Jesus, and it wasn't received well, and it was met by a bunch of disease and. So basically, like their impression now is if it's white, you shoot it.
I know there's the.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Where is that one? There was there's the Indian Ocean one, and then I think there is another one somewhere in Oceania that, Chris, I think you were just kind of referring to, that the mercenary or the missionaries came in, not mercenaries. Yeah. The missionaries came in.
And one half a dozen the other, depending on what your perspective is.
Tried to convert them, and all was going well. And then, like their first night there, or one of the like nights when they were sleeping, the tribe killed and ate them.
This one, I think the only thing I've ever seen is that people have gotten pictures.
You get like the drone pictures where they're like,
and they're throwing.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one in the Indian Ocean.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that people have flown over it like low, and they've gotten like arrows in the side of their planes and stuff.
Yeah. So think about what kind of creatures could be on that island.
Think about everything in general that could be on that island. I mean, you're talking about a group of people that have survived thousands of years without human contact, without other outside human contact, that are, thousands of years less advanced than the rest of the world.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And because of that isolation, yet surviving and thriving. And that's kind of one of the reasons why India has made it like a no-go zone, is because they're afraid that, if anyone was to go there and be allowed in, that it would just be a complete wipeout of their culture, because they wouldn't be able to fight off any of our like diseases and like flus and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that did happen, because I forget when that happened. I think someone went there and like kidnapped a couple of them.
Oh my God! Really?
Took them off the island, and they like died within weeks. Like,
oh my God, that's horrible. That's horrible.
Yeah, I think the last time anybody went there was it was like a 19-year-old kid, and he went there with the sole intention of trying to convert them to Jesus, and he was just
eaten.
Yeah, most likely. But I know like the family of the guy was, trying to petition to go retrieve his body, and the Indian government's like, no, absolutely not. Like, he's theirs now. Like,
no,
we're not.
There's not a whole lot left on the island. So, yeah.
All right. So we have I've actually well entered the Q&A portion of the show, Nash. I'm sure you remember this from last time. We actually weirdly don't have a whole lot of questions in chat thus far.
I've been asking all the questions.
Oh no! So Kelly's got all the questions, which is fantastic. This is good stuff. So this first question, okay. So I'm gonna preface this with my day job, my muggle job, as we refer to it, is at it's at a gym. It's by definition a high-end fitness boutique, which sounds super bougie because it kind of is a little bit. Anyways, so this actually comes from work of all places, because at work I'm the weird person who does all this weird shit and does the podcast, who interviews all sorts of cool and potentially strange people. So this actually comes from one of our coaches. So
are they listening?
For the sake of clarification, I was actually asked this earlier today.
Okay, I wondered. I was like, I didn't see a name I didn't recognize.
So for the sake of clarification, is there a difference between a Bigfoot, Sasquatch, the Yeti, like et cetera, like the skunk ape, are these all like kind of different things, or is it like you have a different species? So like you have your dog, which is a general like species of something, and then you have like your golden retrievers, your German shepherds, your Dachshund hounds.
Are they different breeds of the same creature?
I always look at them as regional variations.
Yeah.
So they're within the same subgroup of creature, but obviously certain ones are adapted to live in certain areas and then are dubbed certain things, different things depending on where they're at. So obviously the Yeti is Himalaya, skunk ape is Florida. Bigfoot was like the term originally given to the Patterson Gimlin Bigfoot that was seen, like the famous one. And then the term Sasquatch I always kind of look at Sasquatch as like the whole, at least for me, that's kind of what I dub everything as a whole. I don't use the term Bigfoot a lot. And then I do if it's,
Is that just because it kind of sounds silly?
Sasquatch is cooler.
Sasquatch sounds way better. Like I saw Bigfoot is.
But it's like animals who've adapted to their territory.
So you have like the Indian elephant, you have the African elephant.
Right.
And they all have different colorations and different things that they can survive through.
You got your Asian tigers, you got your Tasmanian tigers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they're all. I mean, and then it kind of goes back to kind of what we were talking about earlier, where it's like you have all of these different creatures all over the world that have sightings and mythos going back thousands of years. And all of these different cultures were describing something almost identical to one another without knowing of one another's existence. So it kind of led credibility to the Bigfoot phenomenon, Sasquatch phenomenon globally, that there could be something to a lot of these. Obviously, within the U.S., it's blown up almost too much, where you really kind of have to like take us quite a few steps back and kind of look at all the sightings as a whole to determine whether or not that was actually what someone was seeing. But yeah, it's interesting. I mean, you got the Yeti in Himalayas. I know Russia, Siberia has a few. The Chichuna, the Almas, and then Cambodia has the Tek. The Kazakhstan has the Kiakadam. China has the Yowie. China has the Yeren. Australia has the Yowie. And then you have the kind of the runt of the bunch, the orang pendek in Sumatra, which is kind of described as a 3 to 4 foot tall hairy creature.
Oh yeah, I remember seeing footage of that. It's like running like through the grass.
That I don't know if I know that one has been really scrutinized a lot, but that almost just looks like a dude running through the grass.
And I was thinking that too, but that's like immediately where my brain went. Was that just like that particular footage?
I know that was in that area. That was in. I believe that was in Sumatra. If it was in Indonesia for sure. And then I think South America. You've got a couple different ones. I know there's like the Ucammer, which is kind of Bigfoot-ish, but it's a weird one because it's always described as having its mouth on its stomach. And then there's like the Mapanguari in Brazil, which often is thrown into the Bigfoot pool, but I think it's still a live giant ground sloth. And obviously within the U.S., you've got all of them. You got obviously skunk ape in Florida, the grassman in Ohio, Patty and the Pacific Northwest, and Sasquatch up all over up there, and Mogollon monster in Arizona, and Pennsylvania has the Albert Witch. Oh, there's so many.
Do you think that, because I know you said that it's kind of blown up and that the stories of people seeing them is more and more. Several theories on that, I guess, or thoughts on that.
I was going to say, we noticed it a lot with the ghost hunting field, too.
That's what I was going to say.
Where
do you think
you go ahead.
It's cool now.
Well, not that it's cool, but it's more acceptable. You're not deemed as crazy if you say, I just saw a Sasquatch in the woods, where now it used to be if you saw a ghost, you could get locked up. But now it's like, oh, yeah, that's kind of normal, But also I wonder, too.
Oh, I was going the more cynical route, which is I think there are certain people who seek attention.
Well,
yeah, absolutely.
There's absolutely that, too. Yeah.
But I think that's another one of those things that kind of, we kind of shake hands with in both fields.
Oh, yeah.
Anything where
I can think of a few people off the top of my head on your end of things that I know for a fact are very much into that.
Oh, God, I
said. Oh, yeah. Yeah. But then you also, to kind of keep along that same theory of why it's more prevalent now, like there's certain animals that make a comeback that, you didn't used to, eagles, for example. When I was a young girl, they were out there, but you barely saw them. And now they're everywhere, So could it have been a situation where they were almost taken to extinction and they're just building their populations back up? And between building that population back up and the fact that we're continuously destroying their homes, that we're seeing them more and more?
It's possible. I mean, I know kind of what you were saying with like animals kind of making that comeback. I know, at least in my research, with areas that the wolf has been reintroduced into using to get a decent number of dogman sightings. Because it's people that have never seen wolves before, and there's all of a sudden this massive thing that they've never seen,
which totally makes sense. Especially if you get like no, dire wolf is actually a species of wolf. But I mean, you think about it, you get like a bigger species like a gray wolf or something, and I don't know if they're necessarily released. My brain went Colorado right away. I know that's kind of one of the bigger areas they're re-releasing wolves, and
I know Montana has the legend of the Chukawarakan. which is supposed to be this massive wolf. And a buddy of mine, Carrick St. Laurent, actually is doing a lot of research into this stuff, and he found that it seems the farther north you get, the bigger the wolves are.
Oh, yeah. And I think I'm getting weird deja vu flashbacks now, but it almost makes sense because, like, the prey is bigger up there.
And there's less people around.
And elk and certain area like caribou. You'll get like bulls that'll take down a moose, but it's usually an infant. It's not a whole lot of times a full healthy moose gets taken down by a pack of wolves.
There's not a lot of animals that can take out moose. I mean, right. What did I read once? Like one of the main predators for moose is killer whales.
Seriously,
really?
Yeah, well, because moose swim. They in coastal areas they'll dive down to eat like seaweed.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, it's insane. And yeah, so there have been reported moose killings from killer whales.
No
Fascinating.
way. I would never guess
damn,
that.
That's fun. So get back to the Q&A section of the podcast.
My mind's blown. Give me a minute to. Okay.
Mom Pat wants to know. So through all of your adventures, your going out and looking for these things, if you've ever seen anything, like what was the most spectacular thing you've maybe seen or experienced?
On the level of things I've seen, it's funny because I was just talking about it today with somebody else on Facebook. My potential Lake Pepin monster sighting in 2014, I think it was. Still something to this day that I cannot explain, and I often think about. We were out on the lake looking for it, and we were the only ones on the lake. If there were other people, they were not around. But something appeared moving against the current. Didn't really see any obviously recognizable features of a creature. We just kind of saw the wake appear and kind of move south, and we kind of tracked it for probably 30, 45 seconds, and then it disappeared. That to me is probably my craziest sighting. One of my crazy experiences was probably in the Mogollon Monster episode when there was obviously something in the woods with us that was clearly messing with us because it was kind of trying to draw us away from each other. I actually think there was probably several things because we had two teams, both a considerable distance apart from each other, that were both having separate encounters with something. And like I said, it would seem like it was kind of trying to draw us apart. So that is probably the craziest thing probably my two craziest sighting and then craziest experience doing this that was kind of unexplained.
Very cool. So and it's, I guess, transition into the next question, which comes from Darren, of course. So in the world of cryptozoology, going out and you're obviously going to have this with any sort of wild animal, but is there any particular cryptid out there that seems maybe more threatening than most? And that's one of those sexy questions that I felt like I needed to write down.
Or that's going to populate to a point that they just take over.
I wasn't going to say populate to a point because that's likely going to be some sort of parasite like that bitch named Rona.
But can you imagine the world being over?
Any particularly threatening cryptid out there,
so basically, if you were out looking for it, there's that possibility that it could hunt you as well.
Yes.
Obviously, there's obviously been reports of Bigfoot kind of getting hostile. The Mogollon Monster, for instance, is kind of always dubbed as Bigfoot's angry cousin. Because that one seems to have, more often than not, the reports are that it is kind of territorial and is kind of trying to come at you.
Is that the one? I remember hearing a story. It was early miners came out and they were throwing rocks and they had them hunkered down.
No. That's that happened in California.
Yeah, I knew it was.
That's the Ape Canyon
broad statement
encounter. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. That was around. I think that was after the Mogollon Monster stuff started. But yeah, there's. obviously like Dogman stuff, getting into the international stuff. I mean, there's definitely things that I plan to look at or look into that are going to be very dangerous investigations. Mingwa in Tanzania is supposed to be this giant hyena lion thing. And then obviously stuff in like in the jungles of wherever, there's always dangers doing this stuff. It's, you're looking for a potentially unknown large creature that, has never been studied properly. So who knows what the hell these things can do.
About them.
Yeah. A wild animal backed into a corner.
So yeah,
into a corner.
That's kind of what we always joke about. It's like we're going into areas with known dangerous animals, looking for another unknown dangerous animal.
Yeah. We're going into dark, abandoned buildings with holes in the floor, looking for something that glows in the dark. Yeah.
That's why we make the small bucks.
Exactly.
That's true. So I was gonna say we're very close to the time tonight. General consensus is we had a fantastic show tonight with a fantastic guest.
Again.
Which is of course, and always great to hear. So, as we do at the end of these shows, Nash, tell us where we can find you and kind of upcoming stuff that we can find you at, even though I know we already kind of hit some of that earlier.
Sure. So, ChasingLegendsCrew.com is kind of the one-stop shop for all things Chasing Legends related. At Nash Hoover is where you can find me on Instagram and Twitter. Our Facebook, Chasing Legends, Facebook and Instagram is at Chasing Legends TV. And yeah, that's where you can find me. I will be at the Van Meter Visitor Festival with my co-host Michaela and our AV tech Jack on September 25th. Come on down and see us. And yeah.
Yeah, so the Van Meter Visitors Festival.
Which I think, honestly, I have a half a mind to like deviate for just part of the day and go visit. Because we have prior engagements, which is our now opportunity to make a plug. What are we doing that weekend?
Well, see, we would be visiting Nash that weekend, except
I still think I might.
We are busy that weekend with the Ames Psychic and Paranormal Expo, and that is September 25th and 26th in Ames, Iowa, at the Sheeman Building.
So basically, you go to the Van Meter Festival on the 25th. You come check us out on the 26th. Exactly. And everybody's happy. It's like synergy.
Yeah, because really, I mean, Van Meter, if it's
Western
just outside
Iowa
of
weekend,
Des Moines, we're just north
very
of Des Moines.
Close.
We can't be.
I want to say I did the Van Meter Visitor Festival. I was actually a vendor there, 5 or 6 years ago, and then I went to Oktoberfest at Adventureland. So like, I woke up, drank a little, went over,
drank a little more,
like vendor a table, and then I went back and just 4 pillows to the breeze.
So here's what I think should happen.
Head to Western Iowa the weekend of the 25th and 26th.
Everybody can go to the Van Meter Festival on Saturday. You can get a good night's rest. And then you guys, along with Nash, should all swing up through Ames and stop in at the Ames Expo.
You see, I have to drive through Ames to come home.
It's meant to be.
So we might be able to make that happen.
And then sometime we're going to have to get you out to the expo as one of our vendors to have you do some talking about all this.
I will run that past my cousin and Jack and see what they think. Because that should be cool.
I do know.
They enjoy it as well.
I mean, we've had people who kind of like sideline in UFO and stuff too, but never. I don't know that we've had a vendor that's
be like
been
the primary focus.
Yeah, so that would be.
I'm gonna run that place. I'm gonna infect it. It'll be all cryptids after I'm done.
That's all right.
It's gonna go from like the Ames Psychic Paranormal Expo to like the Ames like
Sasquatch Expo.
Sasquatch and
Mothman Expo.
Like,
I'm pretty sure that's trademarked. I'm pretty sure I probably can't use that.
What the
Mothman?
Well, that's what
you just can't have festival after it.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
So
Mothman Festival. So as long as you call it the Mothman Expo, it's fine. It's that little legal loophole.
We didn't even hit Mothman on this episode. There's going to have to be a part 3 somewhere way down the road.
Just in the aspect of it's kind of similar to the meter, but there are so many more things we could talk about.
Oh, definitely.
I mean,
part 3, I'm in. Let's just do a whole new podcast.
There's gonna have to be like a whole new like series because we've got like somebody who's definitely educated, someone who's semi-educated, somebody who's like
has
all the good questions. So.
I have no.
It's like the perfect trio.
Kelly, you beat Darren for questions on this episode.
I'm sorry, Darren.
No, don't be sorry. This is good.
And this was part of the reason I wanted him back because I mean I asked a million questions. I swear to God, I turned that phone down 12 times. But I know I asked a million questions the first time, but I still have so many more. It's fascinating to me because it isn't something that I know a lot about. And yet it's just, I love, just like with the ghost hunting, I love the history of it and the experiences people have had and what your thoughts are. You know, the people who have studied this more, what are their thoughts on it all? So, we got
to take this a step further. And I join you guys on an investigation, and you guys join me on an investigation.
1 million times yes. 1 million times yes.
But we have to make sure it's like comparable. So it's got to be like you guys take me to like the most bonkers place that I have not been to in Iowa, and I'll take you to like the jungles of Siberia, the jungles of South America.
Heck yeah!
This is a deal.
I'm gonna be.
My brain's already.
Maybe even make it like the same weekend. I was gonna say find a way to do like a back-to-back weekend where like.
We can make it work. We can figure something out. I know some places.
One night we're out like in West Virginia doing Trans-Allegheny, and then the next night we're out in like the Appalachian Mountains, Yupin, and knocking on trees and stuff.
Ooh.
Oh, I like it.
Oh, thanks.
I'm always down to travel.
Oh.
Believe it or not.
Something's gonna happen.
Oh yeah, this is happening.
We've hit 9.
Stay tuned, folks.
We've hit 9 o'clock Central Time. Oh my God, I don't know if I can do this. It's been so long.
You got this. Do we have anything else we need to talk about? Okay, so we've mentioned Van Meter Visitor Festival, September 25th.
We hit the Ames Psychic and
Paranormal Expo, September 25th and 26th in Ames, Iowa at the Sheeman Building.
We figured out where we could find Nash on social media and in real time in the future.
Watch Chasing Legends on YouTube.
Chasing Legends.
There's so many of them. Next show, 2 weeks.
Yes.
Me again.
This is going to be awesome, guys.
It's going to be me from now on.
Nash Hoover again and again and again and again. Honorary member of Traveler's Moon.
We will definitely have him back. But
tell Kelly is an expert.
That's going to
just have repeat episodes till Kelly's an expert.
Lord. We're never.
I love it.
This isn't about the viewers at this point.
It's just content. It's just going to be like people watching it on like a private tutor lesson.
It'll be like the 10th show in, and he'll be, "Damn it, Kelly! I've told you this 12 times." All right. So next show, guys, we're going to have to. The plan is. Let's put this out here. The plan is we are going to do something that we have not done before.
We have not. Chris is going to get hammered, which we have done before.
We're going to draw the line slightly before hammered, but I may let him have a drink.
Or 3.
So we're going to do readings.
Yeah, for the first time ever, a live a reading show for the Traveler's Moon podcast.
Yeah. So those of you who have tuned into shows that I've read on before, it'll be similar to that, but this time you get Chris reading. It's going to be fun.
I do that mean drunk reading, so it's going to be a fantastic time. Worst case scenario, it's, time with me talk shit. And I feel like we could do like a background information on like where tarot reading started and all that sort of jazz, but we'll work out them fine details in between. But you ready to knock this? Other
than we should tell them where we're going to be this weekend.
Where are we going to be this weekend?
Going on. So
where are we going to be? What, we're doing stuff this weekend?
We're doing something.
God, we're doing stuff every weekend. And this weekend, are there still spots available in the Saturday night? Or are we full?
A couple.
We're full up?
We're not full, but...
So there's a couple spots. But we know most of you can't make it out to southeastern Iowa, where we are going to be doing an investigation with Dan Class of the Haunted Hinsdale House outside of Buffalo, New York. It's technically Hinsdale, but, Buffalo direction for those of you that aren't familiar with the area. Doing a investigation with Dan Class of the Hinsdale House of Ghost Finders. You've probably seen him on shows like Paranormal Lockdown and
My Haunted House,
and Like
Almost
if you
every story,
pretty much every TV show.
because
I think
they've been out to Hempstead House at this
Yeah.
point. So Dan's on a lot of those shows. So yeah,
any TV show you've probably seen.
probably
The one, the only, a Dan Class.
Mr. John Class.
So if you want the opportunity to investigate with Traveler's Moon,
In
with
person.
Dan Class, in person, like in real time, like you're there, you can touch us as long as it's appropriate until a certain point in the night, in which case it usually doesn't matter. But yeah, investigate with us, with Dan Class, at a location that is just incredible. It's one of our favorites. It is a steamboat inn that's older than the state of Iowa itself. It was a tuberculosis sanatorium. It was a field hospital during the Civil War.
It was a stop on the Underground
It was
Railroad.
a stop on the Underground Railroad, just the richest of rich history. And here's the deal. We know most of you can't make it to Southeast Iowa because we know there's people far and wide listening. The night before, we're doing something very cool too.
Yeah.
As long as we actually get people to sign up for it.
Well, yeah.
Are we doing it regardless now? We're figuring this out in real time.
We'll see.
So here's the deal. If we see people purchasing tickets, there's a high likelihood this event will happen, that you can tune in to a live Facebook stream. This is exclusive for ticket buyers. It's the first time we're doing something like this, but it's helping us cover Dan's costs as far as like travel and stuff, and we want to help the guy out a little bit.
We'd like him to come back to
We'd
Iowa.
like him to come
We
back
throw
to
some things his
Iowa.
way on occasion.
So basically, it's a very small, it's like a $5 fee. It's a fantastic way to spend a Friday night.
$4.99.
$4.99, sorry. Fantastic way to spend a Friday night. You get to interact with us on the investigation. You get to, ask the questions that we'll ask for you. I know if you guys have checked out any of the Traveler's Moon live streams before, it gives you a chance to be like, hey, can you read this over, so-and-so's shoulder?
You can help watch the video, see if you guys catch anything in the videos. You can listen for those EVPs that we can't hear with our ears. Just really be a part of that interaction. So Friday night is going to be the online event that you can sign up for, $5 to watch that. Saturday night, you can attend in person with us at the Mason House Inn.
And that's a hell of a bargain, too, because, you get your ticket. Not only do you get, the event, which is the investigation, but we're throwing in dinner. We're throwing in breakfast the next day.
And you get
your overnight
nice
accommodations,
bed to sleep.
literally all of it.
Yep. So it includes your overnight stay, breakfast, dinner, and time with Dan, which right there is worth it.
Yeah.
Right there is worth it. So,
All right.
anyways, all right.
About that time?
I think
About
it's
that time, let's see if we can do
Nash,
this.
thank you so much again.
Yes, thank you.
We appreciate you. We will have you back for sure.
Oh, definitely. So, once again, thank
Yes,
you,
Darren, PayPal.
Nash Hoover, which, by the way,
The first time, two-time offender.
the first time, two-time offender, probably going to be the first time, three-time offender at this rate.
Oh, it's a hat trick.
It is a hat trick. Good for you. Which, by the way, it's probably the most famous person sounding name I've ever heard too. You hear some names, it's oh, that's going to be a famous person someday. Nash Hoover sounds like a famous person name.
I'm working on it.
All right, everybody. Well, thank you for tuning in to the Traveler's Moon podcast. As always, I am one of your hosts, the Paranomad, Chris Nielsen.
I'm the normal one, Kelly Moonspinner.
McCarville.
Normal-ish.
Normal-ish.
Normal-er.
Thank you for tuning into the live show tonight. If you're not listening to the live show, no, we love you. And Kelly yells at me for saying we love you less. So I'm going to say we love you exactly the same, but you should definitely tune in to the live shows where you can interact in chat. Be sure to, wherever you're listening, give a 5-star review, leave a positive comment, especially if you're listening anywhere in Apple Podcasts. I don't know if that's a thing with Spotify. But if you're able to leave a review in your podcast format, leave a positive response. It keeps us going.
Makes us happy.
And you can find us anywhere on social media at Traveler's Moon. That's the Facebook. That's the Instagram. Technically, that's the Twitter, but we don't do that too often. So, one of those two formats.
As Shay says, we don't twat well.
We don't twat well. Thank you, you sexy beaches. Have a good night.